Welcome to the All Comfort Services Home Comfort Zone podcast. I'm your host, Theresa. I'm the marketing manager at All Comfort Services. Today, we have Dan Vieth, who is the owner, and he's also an IT consultant of Vieth Consulting. Dan, tell me a little bit about Vieth Consulting.
Sure. So Vieth Consulting was founded in 2001. We're a managed service provider. What that basically means is we provide IT services, including security services, to businesses in the Madison and surrounding area that don't have internal IT departments. So we act as their help desk. We do all of their cloud support, all of their security, basically everything A to Z IT we handle for businesses.
And you're located in Madison. Where's your service area?
So we have an office in Madison, Wisconsin, and we also have an office in Brookfield for our Milwaukee customers. So our service area is really anywhere within an hour of Madison, and then also the Milwaukee area and everything in between.
And so the reason why I came you on to the show was that a lot of people are concerned about security, cyber threats. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for people to learn more about that. Um, we actually have Vieth as our company provider, and we've had some of our own internal threats. And as many businesses, I'm sure, and customers, homeowners have malware, that type of thing. What are some of the general cybersecurity concerns right now?
Sure. So the big one for business is going to be ransomware and then the exfiltration of data. So as a business, you hold a lot of sensitive customer information, sensitive employee information. Very often that gets kind of forgotten, but employee social security numbers and employee driver's license numbers. I mean, all of that sensitive data. So not only credit card information from maybe your customers, but also a lot of sensitive employee data. So threat actors will try to breach your network and harvest that data, exfiltrate it, and then hold it hostage to you. So they can then ask for a ransom, for that data. Or more commonly, what happens is they'll encrypt your data. And so you'll come in one day and you'll go to open a PDF or a Word document that, you need to work on. And the icon will look just a little funny. You're like, what's this? And you double click it, nothing happens. Then you call your IT company and say, hey, my icons look really funny. And they gasp and tell you to unplug all your computers and your servers. So that's really in my opinion, the biggest threat. And that's been, maybe 15 years ago or so, we started seeing that threat more prevalent. And there are ways to protect against things like that. You have to make sure that you have a layered approach to your cybersecurity posture. So there are definitely ways to defend against it, but you've got to make sure you do your due diligence and partner with a company that can help you kind of create that cybersecurity posture.
Right. And so as these things are happening, we may be getting emails, just like businesses. We have safety precautions in place that Vieth has created for us so that we don't have those issues. We may see the emails, but it doesn't mean that all of our data is being breached and that type of thing. So how does someone know that, yeah, we see these periodic emails and texts. We think, well, they've got my email address, they've got my phone number. What would create alarm beyond that?
Well, I mean, email addresses obviously are almost public, like public information. So you're going to get a lot of phishing emails. The key is to, if you're in doubt, don't click on any links in that email. Always look at the from address. So, if you're expecting an email from a customer and they all of a sudden you get an email from them, then you look, but the email is, a bunch of strange characters at gmail.com. It's obviously not that person then. So, just stay tuned to things like that and really do your due diligence with, if in doubt, just don't open that, contact your IT provider, or if this is at home, maybe ask somebody who may have a little more knowledge, if you're not as knowledgeable with computers, get a second opinion on that. And if you still can't figure it out, just don't open it, or call the person or call the company. If you get an email from your credit card company and you're worried that this I don't know if this came from my credit card company. Take your credit card out, flip it over, dial the number on the back. You can never go wrong with dialing the number on the back of your credit card, because now you know that you're getting to the right people. The same thing goes, in my opinion, for if you get a call from your credit card company. If you get a call from your credit card company, don't just assume it's them. So um, I will always hang up and then call back, just because they'll want to verify that it's you over the phone, and they'll start asking you personal information. I'm like, well, you called me. I don't know who you are. Let me go ahead and just call my credit card company back. So that's one little trick I've used over the years too.
And with all these different phishing schemes, where can someone go to look to see what's the latest threat? A business person or a homeowner?
So from a business perspective, they really, we really encourage having a email phishing campaign or simulation. And what that consists of is, basically, they take all of those kind of sample phishing emails that are out there, and they're constantly looking for the new ones. And they will formulate them into their own emails, and they'll start sending them to employees to try to get the employees to click the links for training purposes. So they'll send that to an employee. The employee will click on the link and it'll say, "Oh, you've been phished." And then it'll send them with another link to some training information about what they should have looked at in that email, so that they can avoid that next time.
Are there websites that homeowners could go to, let's say they're not on top of it,
Yep.
that they can go to and say, provide that information?
I believe Know Before is one that does have some free information out there. You can also just YouTube it, and there's a lot of information out on YouTube about generalized phishing campaigns. The big thing really to look for is if you're not expecting an email like that, don't open it. And even if you are, still always be, just really look at that sending address and make sure that you know who the sender is.
And what are some things you can do to kind of protect yourself immediately as a homeowner?
As a homeowner, I would say make sure that you do have a good antivirus on your computer at home. In the business world, we don't really use the older style of antivirus anymore. We use something called EDR, which is endpoint detection and response, and that's kind of the next gen or next level of antivirus. But at home, I would definitely make sure you've got a good, reputable antivirus. Again, do your due diligence about reading those emails, things of that nature. The other thing I recommend for everybody that I come across that I talk to cybersecurity about is freeze your credit. Freeze your credit with the 3 different bureaus. It's very easy to do. You can just Google, freeze my credit, and there are the 3 main bureaus. And that's pretty easy to do. When I first froze my credit 15 years ago, um, it actually scared me as to how easy it was for me to freeze my own credit. Like, I didn't really need to have any information. I didn't have accounts with these bureaus yet. They just asked me a couple of questions, and they'll ask you, "Hey, which address looks familiar to you?" And I'm like, "Well, gosh, it would be pretty easy for somebody to harvest this data using social engineering." My wife actually got a really strange text message a couple of years back. It was like 2 in the morning, and it was asking her, like, "Hey, what addresses have you lived at this, in the last few years, or what's familiar to you?" And she woke me up and she's like, like, "Hey, my phone went off. I looked, I got this strange text message." And I immediately jumped out of bed and froze her credit at 2 in the morning, just because I knew exactly what was happening. Somebody was trying to get into her credit, um, utilizing some of those questions that they will ask. But if you haven't had your credit frozen, it is something that you definitely should do.
That's great advice. What are some of the emerging threats and future trends?
There's a lot of social engineering that's going on now. They will, because there's a lot of information out on, LinkedIn and and just on company websites. So threat actors will get some of that information, and they will try to do some more sophisticated social engineering. They'll try to impersonate other people that you know. And so when you receive an email, it is from somebody and they're asking you to do something. And again, really keeping an eye on that from address will help with things like that. But social engineering is something that has kind of evolved in the recent years. And then just ransomware and the exfiltration of data is still the number one thing. That is, that's really what it's one of probably our top priority at Vieth Consulting is to stop any type of threat actors from getting into a network and encrypting data or exfiltrating data.
So, what else would you like to tell people about businesses, what they should do to prepare? Is there anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned earlier that cybersecurity is a multi-layered approach. EDR is a must. So we have certain minimums at Vieth Consulting where we won't do business with a company if they don't adhere to these minimums. One of those, like I said, that's EDR, endpoint detection and response, and that's kind of an AI-based defense mechanism that really has a constant kind of finger on the pulse of your security of your network. So EDR is very, very important. Disaster recovery is also very important, and something called air-gapped backups. So when a threat actor does get into a network, they will very often try to gain access to your backup systems. And the lie in wait. So they're in your system. You don't know they're there, and they'll try to disable your backups so that then when they do release their event and their ransomware, when you come in, all your files are gone, and you go, oh, well, that's okay. I'll just restore from backup. You go to your backups, and your backups are encrypted as well. So air-gapped backup disaster recovery is very important. And then obviously for fire and things like that, it comes in and plays a part with that as well. And then customer training and end user training. So we want to, use things like that phishing, simulation to better educate our end users and, maybe not click on that link to begin with, because that's how they very often get into systems is through somebody's email, clicked on a link, and now they've got access to their computer.
Is there a way for you to come into a business and to detect some of these things? Like, let's just say a business has been operating fine and they don't have a professional organization managing their servers.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you do for those companies to detect and then to help them to be safe?
Sure. So when we put our EDR, our endpoint detection and response security program on their environment, that will immediately start throwing up flags. If there are threat actors in those machines, it will know. We also use a product called, a lot of acronyms here, called MDR, which is Managed Detection and Response. And that is more human eyes watching the EDR platform. So the EDR will send us emails and alerts and things like that. But if, it's the 4th of July and we're, all eating brats and burgers on a Sunday, we may not see those emails. So the MDR and SOC services, they'll actually keep an eye on that 24/7. And if something does happen, they'll react and actually then combat the threat actor in real time. I mean, for the most part, the EDR product that we use, would defend against the attack anyway. So most likely, our customers would be secure. But we still highly recommend that secondary layer of service too, which is the MDR product.
Is there sort of a designation or a range or showing we provide, like a black belt, the top level of protection? This is the gold standard.
Mhm.
Can a company ask for that and get that kind of a
Yep.
service?
100%. So our customers that we've been signing on as of recently, they've been opting in for what's called our premium cyber package. And that includes every cyber security measure that we partner with. It includes all of those. And so we'll deploy all of those layers of security when we onboard that customer.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about what you do or you wish people would know or businesses would know?
Sure. Multi-factor authentication, is a very big thing. Everybody's heard of it now. You got to log into your banking website and you get a text message and you got to enter in the code online. There's a big flaw with multi-factor authentication for email systems, though. Um, if you get a phishing email with a hyperlink from a threat actor and you're already logged into your Office environment or your G Suite environment, and you click on that link, they can do something called token hijacking, and they will steal your browser token and they will transport that to a computer that they have access to. And once they do that, they have full access to your email and anything you have in that system. So if it's G Suite, all your G Suite documents, 365, all your Office 365 documents. And they can do that because when you log in and authenticate on your computer and you get that code and you put the code in and you get authenticated and now you've got access to your email and your files, the way that the vendor knows that you're authenticated is through a browser token. So once you do that, they give you a token. They say, okay, if he's got this token, that means we've already authenticated him. So if they steal that token, then they don't need to re-authenticate. So then they have access to that. So that's something that people really need to watch for. It's something we've seen a lot more of in the last, I would say, year. It's something that our MDR solution protects against. There's a couple other things that'll protect against it, but yeah, it's never good if a threat actor gets access to your mailbox.
So tell me about that authentication. So when are you talking about at a desktop in a business or your iPhone?
And that could be at home too. So your email at home, if you click on a link in a phishing email and it's a fraudulent link, they could very well steal your token at home just as well.
So just clicking on the link and nothing happening, it's
Yep.
already happened.
It's already happened. So what that link does is that runs browser-based scripts, and they're legitimate scripts. So it's running browser-based scripts to then use exploits to then hijack and steal that token.
What are some basic hygiene things that someone should do then to prevent some of this, or delete it, report it?
Yeah, I mean, again, if in doubt, don't open the email, don't click on links, reach out to that party. We get a lot of ticket requests and a lot of emails that come in and they say, "Hey, I think this is fraudulent. I really wasn't expecting an email from this person." And we'll look at it and we'll say, "Yeah, it looks like it could be, it could be malicious. Would you please reach out to this person and ask them if they sent it to you? Do you know who this, yeah, no, we know, we do business with them. Well, let's go ahead and reach out and find out." So you can do that on the consumer side as well. You should know if you're going to be expecting an email from somebody, or like I said, if it's a credit card company sending you an email and you're like, like, "Oh, I don't think I should click on this," just call them. If it's a utility company, I got an email just the other day and it was from my utility company. And I'm like, this looks really strange. I'm like, why are they sending me this email talking about some money I owe them? And so I called them, and it was a legitimate email. It was I needed to pay my gas bill or something, but they had never sent one like that before.
Right.
I've got an automated system that actually automatically pays all those bills for me, but it was just something that they had changed in their system, and all of a sudden I got an email. But instead of clicking the link to log in here to pay your bill or log in here to view it, I called them first.
Right, because sometimes businesses have third-party systems, and then the look and feel of the email looks different, and then you don't recognize it.
Yep.
And so what about things like two-factor authentication? Should people be using their face? Should they avoid that? Should they use, when it's asked for on different places, please provide a different factor
Mhm.
identification? What should you be doing?
Yeah, well, you should use two-factor authentication on any system that will allow you to do it. Most systems will nowadays. 5 years ago, there was a lot of banks that didn't even have two-factor, but now pretty much everything will allow you to use two-factor authentication. You should have two-factor authentication on everything, even though I might have, scared some people about the token hijacking. That is a
Mhm.
really scary thing, but you should still have two-factor authentication on everything. And Face ID, that's been known to be pretty secure. So even with my Fidelity account, I log into my Fidelity account with my Face ID. I technically have two-factor authentication on that, but Face ID, it bypasses it. But it only does it on the device that I've set it up on. So if I had a brand new iPhone and I went to go log into that, it would not allow me to use Face ID on that device. So that's the other thing is keep your devices in your possession. Make sure that you have Find My put on, on your iPhone or your Samsung. If your device does get stolen, make sure that you can do a remote wipe via Find My. So make sure you do that right away, because if somebody gets a hold of your phone number or your device, that very often has all your multi-factor authentication stuff in it.
That's really helpful. How do you do that from Find My, where you erase from Find My?
So it's right in the Apple settings menu. If you go into Apple settings menu, you'll have a little picture of yourself, and you go in there, and there's some security settings, and you can do it right in there.
And you'll have to do it from a remote from another desktop.
Yeah, or your iPad, or you can do it. So yeah, you can do it from your desktop, or an iPad. So even if you've never signed into that desktop, as long as you have the 2FA mechanisms in place, you can log right into your desktop and do it from there too.
So we talked a lot about threats and the negative side of things, but are there some positive sides of things? For example, creating efficiencies for businesses that you provide?
Yeah. Well, I think one positive, even when it pertains to the cybersecurity thing, is that we have products now that defend against all of this. 10 years ago, it wasn't quite as so, and we were kind of like, what do we even do? We were getting hit with ransomware at different places, and it's like we had our backups. That's what we relied upon. But now, I don't want to say that we're always a step ahead of the threat actors, but I do feel now as though we are a couple steps ahead. And the key is to always stay a couple steps ahead. So it's, cybersecurity is ever evolving. And, we go to a lot of trade shows, we go to a lot of conventions, specifically on cybersecurity. So we always try to find out what the newest thing is that we might have to implement to, to protect companies.
Another topic, are there any threats to logging into a chat, like, for example, ChatGPT or other AI products, AI apps, um, logging into them and having all kinds of conversations, information? What are the threats of using those?
Well, just remember, anything you put in there, that information is theirs now. So you just have to be sensitive about what you're gonna be using those tools for. They're great tools. Also, you need to watch out for companies that are mimicking those tools. So there was an incident where somebody had downloaded one of those. It was like a ChatGPT, but it wasn't ChatGPT, on his phone. And when he did that, the threat actor had access to everything on his phone. So you really have to watch what applications you're downloading. Make sure that it's a mainstream application.
How do you know that those apps are the right apps?
Well, if you don't know, you should ask someone. Obviously ChatGPT is the big one. Microsoft has a product called Copilot. That's a paid product. But yeah, if you don't know, ask somebody who you think might, if it is something that you want to try to get into.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you for coming out here to give us all this information.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here.